What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Jose Show. I hope that everyone is having a good day because unfortunately, I am not having a good day because unfortunately, yesterday, Vice President Kamala Harris lost to Donald J. Trump in the elections, 224 to 277, and it makes Donald J. Trump the first presidential candidate since 1892 to win two non-consecutive terms after Grover Cleveland won two non-consecutive terms back in 1892. Now, this was definitely unexpected because we were all expecting for Kamala Harris to win the elections, especially because she was leading in the polls in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, which, by the way, are the swing states. But, unfortunately, things turned around definitely yesterday. And by the way, since things turned around drastically for Vice President Kamala Harris yesterday compared to the polls, this is giving me 2016 vibes because I remember that back in 2016, we were all predicting for Hillary Clinton to win the elections because she was leading in all of these polls, especially in the swing states. But then unfortunately, Donald Trump unexpectedly won in the swing states and he unexpectedly won the presidential election. Now, I think that now that Kamala Harris lost and Donald J. Trump won, we are all worried and exhausted at the same time for the future of this country because basically our future is at jeopardy now because unfortunately women's rights to their own body is definitely going down the toilet now. And then, of course, the economy, in my personal opinion, is not going to be as good as it has been throughout these past 3.5 years that Biden has been in office. And let's also remember that we are going to see more violence, we're going to see more racism, we're going to see more misogyny because of the fact that we are having a man in the Oval Office that is going to be encouraging all of that. And let's also remember too that we are going to have, high taxes for the low class and the middle class. And of course, the billionaires are going to have a lot of tax cuts because unfortunately, Donald J. Trump has always been in favor of the multi-billionaires and the billionaires in general. And let's also remember too that he is going to do mass deportations because the man doesn't like immigrants. The man doesn't like Mexicans, especially because he is a racist. Let's remember that. So there's also that. So anyways, all of this is definitely going to be witnessed by all of us, the American people, throughout the next 4 years that he is going to be our president, unfortunately. And by the way, none of us are accepting the fact that he won the election last night because we are all demanding a recount because what we are noticing so far since Donald J. Trump won is that not so many votes got into the system last night. And a lot of people were saying that we were having a huge voting turnout this year and that we were having more votes this year than back in 2020. And then all of a sudden we see the results that we did not get as much votes as we did back in 2020, by the way. So with that being said, this is definitely sounding like voting fraud to me. I mean, I'm just saying, according to what I'm hearing here. And I really hope that there is an error going on and that Kamala Harris is actually the winner here and not Donald J. Trump. But, unfortunately, there has never been a thing where, all of a sudden the election gets overturned because of the fact that there is election fraud going on because, unfortunately, with election fraud or no election fraud, in my personal opinion, there has never been an election overturned here in the history of the United States of America. Let's be honest. It has always been that the winner is this person and it's this person in the end. And by the way, Kamala Harris is expected to have her concession speech this afternoon. And by the way, she was going to have it last night in the university that she was in, I believe over in California or New York, if I'm not mistaken. But she just got so exhausted. She got so tired, especially because of the fact that she knew that she wasn't going to win. So she decided not to do the concession speech last night. But anywho, another thing that I have to say about this is that many people are speculating that Elon Musk has a lot to do with the fact that Trump won because let's remember that Elon Musk, he ran a huge interview with Trump on X and he was promoting Trump like crazy on X, saying how much of a good person he is and how much of a person he is to be fit to be president of the United States of America. And then, of course, Elon Musk was out there saying a lot of good things on how he is going to handle the country, especially. And then, of course, Elon Musk was in one of his rallies not so long ago. Let's remember that. And many other things, so that's another thing that could play a role in this election here was Elon Musk. But anywho, I was really nervous last night when I noticed that Trump was leading Kamala Harris by a landslide at the very beginning, because what I noticed was that Trump was already leading Kamala Harris by like 50, 60 electoral votes at the very beginning. But I was still hopeful though, because I noticed at the very beginning that Kamala Harris still needed Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Arizona and the other swing states in order to win, and those swing states were not still counted yet. And at the very beginning, it was just the Republican states that were being counted, which is the reason to why Donald Trump was winning at the very beginning, of course. But anywho, and then I remember that at the very beginning of the counting for Michigan and Wisconsin, I noticed that Harris was leading by a landslide in those states, especially in North Carolina. But then all of a sudden, I noticed that as the time went by, the gap kept on closing and closing and closing. And then unfortunately, Trump started to pass Kamala Harris in the election results for the swing states. And then that was when bad news was going in for Kamala Harris and, of course, for the supporters like me. And that's when, unfortunately, it was called victory for Donald J. Trump, that he was going to win the election. And by the way, what I also noticed too about last night's election was that, there was like a little fight going on with the results yet again, because I noticed that even though the election results were closing and even though, of course, Trump was surpassing afterwards, I noticed that afterwards, the election results were closing again. They were narrowing again for the swing states, and it seemed like Kamala Harris was like fighting for her life in these election results. But yet again, unfortunately, she wasn't able to surpass Trump's score in the swing states, unfortunately, which is what got Kamala Harris to lose last night's election. So that's another thing. But anyways, I think that this right here is definitely going to be in the books as one of the most tough elections in the history of America. That's for sure, because let's remember that even though we noticed in the polls that, of course, Trump was losing to Kamala Harris, yet again, we saw a lot of other polls that Trump and Kamala Harris were tied, and Trump and Kamala Harris were close to each other, and this and that. And that's what really made it exhausting, by the way, for all of us, by the way, before the elections. And we were all worried, of course, before the elections, let's remember. But it would have been so damn amazing, though, that we today would have celebrated the history and the victory of a black female being the president of the United States of America, because Kamala Harris would have been the first black South Asian female to be the president of the United States of America. It would have happened, but unfortunately, it hasn't happened, and I believe it's never going to happen at this point, since I believe that even though there's going to be voting recounts, I'm pretty sure it's still going to be towards Donald Trump that he won the election, I'm pretty sure. So anyways, this is definitely a sad day today for the Kamala Harris supporters, that's for sure. And I really am devastated so far, very devastated, and I couldn't even sleep well last night, to be honest with you guys. I was just on my phone refreshing Google, refreshing X, and I was refreshing even other sources just to see if everything was accurate enough, and to seeing that Donald J. Trump actually won the election. And yeah, unfortunately, things turned out to be that way, unfortunately. But anyways, I'm hoping that in the next 4 years, we actually get to elect somebody that is decent, that is actually fit to be in office, and also a Democrat. And if it's a Republican, I'm hoping that it's a good Republican, and it's not a horrible Republican like this man is, for example. Just saying. Okay, I mean, to be honest with you guys, I am not a Republican supporter, and I've never been one, but I do respect the Republican Party because I know that they have their own values, they have their own differences from us, the Democrats, but when it comes to Trump being in the Republican Party, that right there is what bothers me, because the man has issues mentally. The man is just so darn crazy. He's weird. He's just violent. He's just out of control. That's the issue right there, is him. Especially because the man, to me, is not a politician. The man is a producer and an actor for Hollywood. The man doesn't have any freaking political experience to be in office at all. And the fact that he ended up being eligible enough to be running for president of the United States in the first place, even though he's a convicted felon, is a whole joke to me, because I feel like when it comes to a convicted felon like Trump, they should not be eligible enough to be running for president, because what's going to happen is that they're putting the country at risk. And by the way, since they're letting Trump run for office and they're letting Trump be in the office already now that he is elected president, unfortunately, then America should might as well get rid of the felony boxes that are in the job applications, and they should just let all felonies and all criminals get jobs as well, because I mean, it should be fair after all, right? So this is just complete baloney. This is just complete ridiculousness. But man, this is definitely also something scary, especially all for the poor illegal immigrants out there that are wishing to have a dream and are wishing to have a good future in this country, which is called the United States of America, which is the country of opportunities, because this is the country where you get good jobs. This is the country where, you can have a good house, you can have a good living, you can have a good, definitely life, that's for sure. So I really worry for those people, because those people, unfortunately, are definitely going to get deported back to Mexico or back to wherever they came from, and it's going to be all bad for them. Oh my Lord. We are reliving 2017. We're going to relive 2017 on January, that's for sure. And we're going to be reliving those days where Trump is going to be saying a bunch of stupid stuff on TV again. And we're going to be reliving a bunch of Trump supporters out there laughing and mocking and saying a bunch of evil things that a bully would say all over America, all over TV, and it's just going to be very sad, and it's going to be very scary, that's for sure. But anyways, that's all I have to say for today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of the Jose Show, which is an election special, and that's all. Peace.